Hopefully it should actually be kicking on here. Just make sure that it's all good. Okay. It looks like it's running. Okay, there we go. I see us on screen. Perfect. Okay, good. I had to completely set it all up in my OBS because it wasn't connected to my YouTube. So
All right.
cool. Okay. All right. Are you guys ready?
Let's go.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Welcome to episode 6 of the TCCG Roundtable. We are your hosts, dragonrider and Itachi, and joined by this week, or it's been a week, joined this week by our very special guest, lambyseries. Hello.
Hey guys, what's up? What's up?
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I kind of just ended a stream about 4 hours ago, so yeah, just ready to speak a bit more than usual.
That's right. Well, let's get to know you a little bit better. How about we start with that? So, will you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your history with card games? Like, what got you into cards? What have you played? What do you do? Obviously, you just mentioned that you stream. So, what is it that you will do?
Yeah, all right. So this is gonna be a bit of a long one. Like I have a really long history of card games, so just cut me off anytime. Okay, but so I started when I was 10 years old with Yugioh. Some of you guys already know that I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I started when I was 10 with my brother. We went to this random comic shop in town, and then my dad was like, oh, you wanna try this game? And I'm like, okay, let's try this game. Then I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For about 3 years, from 10 to 13. I quit actually from 13 to like when I was 18 because I was like doing other high school stuff, But before that, I actually had a small claim to fame already. Like when I was 13, I was top 8 at Nets in Singapore. Not many people know this because it was like way long ago. So I somehow had a calling for card games when I was younger. So I quit because, well, like I said, life, right? Life, school life and stuff like that. So I quit. And when I was 18, I saw my brother playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards again after so many years. So I was like, hey, why are we doing this again? And he was like, oh, new cards look pretty cool, new anime. Then I'm like, okay. Then I picked up the cards. Then I was like, okay, I don't really know any of these cards. It's been years, but I was like, okay, so I used to play this. Let's just try. So I borrowed some of his decks. I went down to the local shop, played in a locals, and won. So I was like, hey, wait, maybe we should get back into this again. So we played for that whole year. Played, and then the breaking point came Nets 2012. Yes, I somehow won nationals. Then I was like, wait, what's going on? I literally came straight from a tennis tournament to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, and then I won the Yu-Gi-Oh nationals. So I was like, okay, now we're going to Japan. Wow, okay, this is snowballing really quickly. Yeah, I didn't really. I knew I was decent at the game, but I didn't expect to like do that well during that period. Okay, so went to Japan, met some other pro players like Jorel, Pro Winston, Joshua Schmidt, some of these players that are still in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Then I got 4th place at Worlds, so that was even bigger of a breaking point. Sadly, did not really capitalize on it because I had to go serve in like Singapore has this mandatory like national service thing, so we have to serve in the army for like 2 years. So like I kind of had to like, stop everything to serve. So once that was done, went to university. University was the time when I discovered Hearthstone, which is like what a lot of you guys know me for, Hearthstone. So I mean naturally because I played Yu-Gi-Oh, so I saw this digital card game on my phone thing. Then I just like, okay, let's pick it up as well. Played a bit here and there. Was decent. Got picked up by a local team. Played a bit more. And then we'll fast forward this a little bit, right? In 2020, I sort of made GM. You guys maybe see me on YouTube before. I made GM. And then we lasted there for about 1.5 years. GM ended, and now I'm here. So I mean, this has mainly been about me playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but the Hearthstone stuff you guys can find everywhere. So yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
So I thought it was super interesting. We did have Jarrell on the podcast, and then before we were just talking, and I found out that you gave Jarrell the Exodia head that he used in that World Championship as 2012 Worlds.
Yeah.
It's just super interesting. It's kind of an everything's connected, universal existential crisis kind of thing, where you're like, oh, this was a really small world. So I helped Jarrell build the deck, and you gave him the cards for it. So that's super awesome. So Talk about kind of, I guess, your. I mean, I get that you say when you picked up Yu-Gi-Oh, it just kind of felt like natural, like you were just good at it. And when you picked up Hearthstone, did you get that same? Did you get the same feeling from Hearthstone, or what did it take for you to get to where you were like, okay, I can be like really good competitively?
All right, okay, not gonna lie. Hearthstone is not easy. Okay, it's easy to get into the game, but not difficult. Not easy to be very good at. It's difficult to be good at Hearthstone. That's the truth. But if I were to compare Yu-Gi-Oh and Hearthstone, I would say Yu-Gi-Oh actually was um more complex for me. So getting into Hearthstone was the easier thing to do because when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, there's one thing that Hearthstone can't have, which is the face-to-face human interaction for the most part, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, if you're playing at a LAN event, then there's a bit of those. Like you can see sometimes your opponent's reactions, their visible discomfort when it comes to drawing a bad card or something like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can see some of those in Hearthstone, but in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's everything like their hand gestures, the way they hold their cards. I mean, I play poker as well, so I think it came naturally for me when it comes to reading physical gestures, which is a lot lacking in Hearthstone. So I
Yeah.
think my age in Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot more than my age in Hearthstone. And obviously at the same time, I think when it comes to physical card games, there's a lot of skills that uh you don't get to replicate in digital card games because you don't really see the guy opposite you often enough, right? Most of it now it's online as well. So you can't replicate a lot of things that you can replicate in physical card games. I think you guys would know that as well. Yeah.
It's almost like you
Yeah.
listened to the previous episode of the podcast.
Oh no, no, I have not watched
I
a single
rave.
episode. I'm sorry.
No, it's
No, don't
perfectly
be
fine.
sorry.
I
That
rave
yeah.
about that all the time. I say that my best edge and my ability to play like Yu-Gi-Oh better than Hearthstone, I think, is that the face-to-face interaction, how
Mm-hmm.
I can visibly see when my opponent is doing something or has done something incorrectly or is drawing a bad card or whatever the case. And so I always said that like one of the things that Hearthstone is better at is I don't have to wait. If I'm playing a game of Hearthstone, I don't have to wait on my turn for my turn. Whereas
Yeah,
like other digital games, so like Yu-Gi-Oh has Master Duel and Magic the Gathering
yeah.
has Arena, I could be playing my turn, but I have to wait in between my own turn because my opponent has so many interactions.
Mm-hmm.
So I did say that Hearthstone has a little bit of an edge in terms of digital. Digitally, it's created to be digital and has capitalized on making it as accessible to you on your turn as possible. Actions per minute means something, and that's obviously really fun. But the draw of like being able to see my opponent, and I played poker as well, played
Yeah.
Magic, played Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone, all these games too. And being able to see my opponent has been one of the most important things I think in competitive play for me. Competitively, now
Mm-hmm.
casually, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
like knowing that I'm playing for stakes, and it's just better.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was a rant.
That
Sorry.
was
Yeah, no worries, man. I totally like can understand what you're saying because like when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, there was a lot of things that I really like to do. It's all ethical stuff. I don't cheat. It's just to put it
Right.
out there. It's all ethical stuff. There's a lot of things that I like to do to get reads from my opponent. Like when you I'm just gonna just throw random things out there. Like when you check your opponent's graveyard and then you see their reaction when you look at their graveyard, or when you flip your set cards for the sake of flipping your set cards, even though there's nothing to respond to.
Mhm.
You can do all that kind of stuff to see reactions, but for Hearthstone, the only thing you really can do is probably rope, which is, I mean, it's a story for another about intentional roping, but like you get the point. There's very
Yeah.
little you
yeah.
can do in Hearthstone when it comes to like getting reactions from your opponent. They just emote you, and that can mean anything in Hearthstone. So
Correct.
Yeah.
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 I figured that out too. I started emoting on
Mm.
APM turns. Like when somebody starts roping, I start emoting. So,
But technically,
little
it's
stuff like
legal,
that.
right? It's
Yeah,
legal,
yeah.
so
It's like
yeah.
you qualified for Worlds. You won Singapore Nationals within sectors, right?
Yeah.
And you were the only person from Singapore to attend Worlds, if I'm not mistaken. You only sent one representative.
Yeah, that year, it was the Insector meta. Like, it was either Insectors or trying to beat Insectors. It's like the best deck in the game kind of thing. So, yeah, that year
Mhm.
I was the only one that went. I think they only sent one representative anyway, so yeah.
Gotcha. I was just making sure. I did some studying before just to make
Yeah,
sure.
nice.
I remember a lot of stuff from that world. So, but yeah. Anywho,
Alright. Okay.
Then there's some of us who don't know like anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, and I have no idea what that means. But all I know is that you went to the World Championship that year, and that like to me, I'm like that's super impressive. But not only that, I mean, you've stayed in like high level competitive card gaming, which is even more impressive. I think we've kind of hit on that a little bit in previous weeks too. It's like these players like yourself who are able to get into competitive and then stay competitive for a long time or over multiple games. It's just there's a lot to it, I feel like. And I think we're gonna talk to you a little bit more about that in our roundtable topic. I'm excited to kind of pick your brain a little bit about competitive stuff. But for anybody listening, I mean, we will have all of your where people can find you and all of that in our description and stuff. So definitely check that out. But let's talk about some news here. And feel free, either of you, to jump in on these. We can kind of just, quickly run through these. Just bringing up again, MTG new set coming out. Brothers War should be hitting MTG Arena on the 15th here of November. Today is the 11th. And then should be coming, I think, to tabletop on the 18th. The Flesh and Blood set Dynasty just launched today. I'm going to try to get my hands on some cards. Oh my gosh, we're speaking of that. Last week, Itachi and I looked at some cards and we kind of tried to start learning Flesh and Blood live on the show. And I have since bought a whole box of booster packs from one of the sets. And I've already started looking at tournaments and stuff that are happening in January when their new, biggest competitive season starts again. So I guess I feel like I'm now invested in Flesh and Blood. So I'm kind of excited to check out the new set Dynasty and get my hands on some of those cards. But speaking of Flesh and Blood, they also did put out their banned and suspended announcements and suspended, list. Seems like they do one of these every couple of months. A lot of the physical card games do that. They can't go in and change how cards work like the digital games can. So instead of bounce patches, they have these banned and suspended lists. They didn't make any changes to Classic Constructed, which is pretty interesting. They noted that they really liked the diversity of the metagame that they were seeing at the World Championship this last weekend and the performance of those meta decks. But they did make changes for the Blitz format. Looks like they kind of made changes for 4 cards there in Blitz. Aether, Wildfire, banned. No, not allowed. Aether Ice Vein, suspended until the next ban and suspended announcement, which they already have announced it will be January 30th of next year, 2023. Hypothermia, suspended until Icelander becomes Living Legend, which Icelander, I feel like, was definitely very, very popular at the World Championship this past weekend. I believe that's actually what the winner won with, was Icelander. So and then Storm Striders moving from suspended to legal. So some changes there. And then the last thing I had for the news was last week we talked about the Marvel Snap patch that came out and talked a little bit about that. There was some confirmation on Twitter from one of the devs that they did actually not include, or they didn't mention something in the patch notes that they did actually change. And that is before you had 3 refreshes per day for your missions. But now you still get 3 refreshes per day, but they've changed it so you can actually bank up to 10 saved refreshes for those missions. So you can still finish your weekly challenge, even if you don't play every day, which I was using because I'm like, oh crap, I didn't, didn't really play over the weekend, and then come in and then just one night, it's like, all right, new missions, just, spend my gold, a couple missions. And it's like, all right, burn through those 6 missions. All right, refresh, give me more missions, which I thought was really cool because it allows you to kind of play a lot on a certain day and play a little less, or you can play more evenly throughout. So that seemed like a cool change. Either of you use that?
Personally played a lot of Marvel Snap as well. It's like so now Hearthstone is in its off season, right? We're all waiting for the new expansion, the March of the Lich King. I'm really excited for that one. But in the meantime, I've been playing so much Marvel Snap. When Don mentioned the whole refresh thing, right? I also was that was a bit like me as well. Every day I felt like I gotta clear all this quests, I gotta get my gold, get my credits and whatever. Then I was like, okay, but obviously I'm a real ladder grinder by heart, right? I did cash a little bit, but for the most part, I grinded super hard into pool 3, super fast. Because I know that going into pool 3 quickly is dangerous because you don't have the cards and everything. But I just couldn't wait to see new cards. Like I was really excited
Yeah.
to see the new cards, especially it's Marvel, right? It's like the Marvel franchise. Everything is like everyone knows Marvel, so like I was really excited to play with the new cards. Yeah, so I think this game is something that should be looked out for. I have really high expectations of Marvel Snap. Like this is not a sponsored post, but I still think that
Yes.
I have a really high expectation of Marvel Snap. And the peers around me, those that don't even play card games, are trying Marvel Snap, which is saying something, right? Like the
Yeah.
people that don't know anything about card games is trying Marvel Snap. So that probably means something. Yeah.
Yeah, they are also getting snapped into oblivion. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the people that I'm winning 8 cubes from every time I
Yep.
queue.
Yeah.
Anytime that someone says snap question mark emotes snap and then the opponent does it, they should that's so crazy to me. If I snap and tell you to do it and you do it, you deserve to lose.
Yeah,
Anyway,
man.
so moving on to competitive play. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of that and like talking about it, I've seen some people who are trying to stream it, which the visuals of Marvel Snap trying to translate that to looking good on stream definitely needs some improvement. So I hope that gets better.
Yeah. Did you guys see that they actually came out with an official roadmap already that they will be working on UI updates for the game?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the current phase they're on. Like they're adding collectors tokens, UI updates. It's all in like the phase 2, so it should be happening soon, I hope. Because I really want to stream the game, but I cannot stand looking at the blank space.
The
for so
one,
long.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, man! Like I'm not a designer or artist or whatever, but I just cannot look at the blank space and just feel good about it. So I'm just really waiting for the blank space to disappear.
Yeah, or the people who have like cropped it and like cropped, you got like 4 different little things, and then you look at it and you're just like, what is going on this screen? Like it's everywhere. But there's people who have been streaming it and doing all sorts of like I think I saw somebody who was like saying, for every certain amount of subs, they'll snap just on turn 1, and they're like incorporating different stuff like that. So that's been pretty fun to see, I think. But
are they not snapping on turn 1 already? Because
no, that's your thing.
Yeah, that's the
snap. Turn 1.
In poker terminology, that's like blind raising or something, right? Practically like blind raising. It's effectively the same thing. On that note, I think Marvel Snap did. I don't know if they intended this, but like Marvel Snap really feels like digital poker. I don't know if you guys can.
It does. Yeah.
It's like you pay money to see a flop, aka like you look at another card. Like if someone raises you, aka snap, you have to like think about whether they are bluffing or is it just a tactical whatever. It really feels like poker, and that's what keeps me going back and back and back. And like if your hand is bad, you just fold, which is retreat, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah. So
exactly. I love that aspect of it.
I wish they would increase, so like as the turns go up, the amount of cubes increases, and then so like if you snap on turn 1, you double those cubes. But if you snap on like turn 4 or turn 5 or turn 6, then it's like 12 cubes plus what was already in the pool. I think there would be so much more incentive to like you either have to retreat early if your hand is like not gonna work.
You don't think 8 cubes is you don't think 8 cubes is enough? 8 cubes is so detrimental already, man.
Exactly. I want to be able to take somebody for 24 cubes.
He just wants to rob your house, man. He wants to rob you of all your possessions.
I'm not very far into ladder because I didn't get to play as much ladder as I wanted to. So like the people that I'm playing are still just snapping or whatever for whatever reason. So it's a lot easier to gain cubes currently. So maybe my opinion will change as I progress. So I'll move on to competitive play really quickly. Flesh and Blood TCG. Also, Dawn has fallen in love with Flesh and Blood. I just want to put that out there. So Dawn writes our show notes, and I have noticed like a 50% uptick in the amount of flesh and blood stuff that's in the show notes.
I mean, from last week to this week, 50% increase, maybe, but like they have a lot of stuff going on. So, I thought it was important to include that.
Guys, I'd like you to mourn the beginning of the end of us being an all table podcast and us moving into a Flesh and Blood podcast, despite me not knowing the same amount about the game. So they hosted their first ever World Championship this past weekend in San Jose. Michael Hamilton from the US won, becoming Flesh and Blood's first ever world champion. Historically, I will say the United States has trouble sending world champions to these events. So the fact that the United States won the first world championship is fantastic because the US has not won a Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship, I don't think ever.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
No, North
No.
America has won.
Oh.
Sahabi won, and he's from Canada. But the
Ah,
US
okay.
has not put forth one. Magic, I think we might have one world champion that's from the US. It's very
Mhm.
little, but like
This year's,
usually
right?
we're getting trumped.
This year's
that?
Magic World Champion.
Oh no, so okay, yeah, we have two, including
Two.
Nathan. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, Nathan from the US just
I think-
won this year
Yeah,
for
I think
Magic.
it's
Alright,
two
you guys
now,
want something. You guys want something. It's fine.
So
Yeah.
keeping
We
with the
got
trend
it.
of North America is the worst division. Next,
Oh,
Battle Spirit
no.
Saga, which is a physical card game from Bandai coming in spring 2023, announced that a $1 million prize pool previously, now adding to
Wow.
that, stating another $350K prize pool for launch events in spring 2023. So not only are they going to have a 1 million prize pool, they're going to add another 350K for launch events.
Yeah.
So hopefully that game will be fun to play. Bandai's got a lot of interesting lore in some of their like cartoons, and Bandai owns Power Rangers, kind of. So Power Rangers is a pretty cool show as well. So maybe they'll have good lore in this Battle Spirit Saga. I don't know what the game is based off of, or if it's a completely new creation, but we'll see. That's a lot of money that they're putting into it. So it's definitely going to be something that a lot of competitive players are going to look into.
All right.
Hearthstone Lobby Legends is happening this weekend. That is November 12th and 13th. Broadcast based on European time. PST, Saturday, November 12th, Sunday, November 13th, midnight, which is 3 a.m. Eastern. 16 players, $50,000 prize pool. Lobby Legends has been really interesting, but I don't think it's gotten the viewership that I believe that they expected it to get. Also, don't think it was advertised very well, and I also don't think it's constructed very well. So there's those things that I think that they're missing in terms of Lobby Legends. I think it could be really awesome.
Yeah, I watch Lobby Legends in the background sometimes because I don't play BGs. Like the last time I played BGs was like maybe like a year ago. So I haven't really followed BG much. But I do watch Lobby Legends in the like in the back, like a background stream here and there. I mean it's interesting to see, but I don't
Yeah.
follow it very closely, so I don't really have much to say about it. But I think it's interesting, like they're doing like Hearthstone competitive, like constructed, and then BG, because I think there's actually a big market for BG, right? Like it's a really big market for BG. So maybe next year's scene would comprise a little bit more of that. Like I'd be perfectly fine if the BG scene like grows even bigger, as long as they don't force it constructed. As long as they don't force
Yes.
it constructed.
Yeah.
Then we are fine. We are fine.
We got a problem. I would
Yeah.
like to see more wild events too.
Yeah, that's true. There's like none since 19 or something.
19 when they did the open. Yep.
Yeah. That was like it though, right? Didn't they just basically do it once and then like that was it?
That was
sad.
the only month I ever finished top 50 wild ladder. That was.
Oh yeah, I played that one as well. Actually, I played like top. Was it 100 to qualify or something? Top 100? I don't know. I played
think
in
it was
that one.
top 100.
I got knocked out really quickly because the meta was so fast. I was just not used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably catch like a little bit of this Lobby Legends like when I wake up tomorrow or Saturday morning, because I'm casting the Supergirl Battlegrounds tomorrow. So
right.
I'll probably watch some of that so that I can like
shameless plug. Dawn will be casting Supergirl Battlegrounds tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
and then Standard on Sunday. It's the championships this weekend and my birthday tomorrow.
Nice.
So I'm like, I'm casting for my
birthday.
birthday. Thank
also,
you.
happy pre-happy birthday, Dawn.
Thank you.
Yu-Gi-Oh! YCS Dortmund is happening this weekend in Germany. It is 1 week following YCS Pasadena, where Hani Jawari won with Shizu Tearlaments, a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype that is what a lot of people are calling a tier 0 deck. It took 26 out of 32 spots in the top 32. So it was very dominant over this past weekend, and it's caused a lot of uproar in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, with me being at the center of it, because I questioned the person who won's deck. I said that one of his ratios he played was incorrect, and it made a lot of people mad. So
someone has to disagree, right? And no one agrees with everything. So
and I think a lot of the good players, understand, you're going to challenge a deck. That's what you have to do to stay competitive in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where there's such a large card pool and formats progress really, really quickly. Like you have to question you can't just play with the winner one, because you have to play something different.
Yeah, I agree.
So unlike Hearthstone, where you can take the best deck and just like copy it card for card, you can't do that in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, when there's like the deck that's like this level dominant, like in my memory, there's like what Teledad, Insectors, Elemental Dragons, decks that take up like 3/4 of the top spots, right? You just know the next ban list is gonna make it disappear. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
Like the next ban list will make your top deck disappear. It's just the way it goes. So I hope this deck is not too expensive to obtain. If not, people are gonna be losing a lot of money
So
when
this
they have
deck,
to sell it off.
the prices of Yu-Gi-Oh cards have decreased because they print multiple rarities. So like Starlights have helped.
Right.
I think Starlights in North America have helped the accessibility to cards because now the expensive card is the highest rarity version of it instead of like maybe the secret rare or the ultra rare version. As it used to be, like if it was the ultra, then that was the only version. That one would be really expensive. So now it's a little bit cheaper. If you want to be the premium player, you can pay for the Starlight. So, but yeah, we'll see how YCS Dortmund is. It's going to be the same format. The same deck is going to exist. So we'll see if it still wins again.
There's not gonna be a ban list before the next. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Interesting.
So they released the set. They released the set this past Friday, or this past Wednesday, I think is when it came out. So it was legal for this past weekend for the first time. And then this current event is just like obviously 1 week later. So the set hasn't been out for 1 week, and there's 2 events that follow it. So it just so happened to be like bad beats. I know that they don't necessarily want to put a ban list out so quickly on product that they just released.
Yeah.
Because that could turn, but for them, if you were a vendor and you put in an order, you put that order in months ago. So what they're gonna sell, they've already done so.
All right.
So
ban list, it's the same as last time, isn't it? Like there's like quarterly ban lists and stuff like that. From what I know, Yu-Gi-Oh does it every 3 months or something. No?
So they stopped. What they used to do is they had it planned so that every ban list came out on a specific date. So you would look at the ban list from today, and it would say this ban list is in effect until, and then they would tell you when the next ban list is happening.
Right.
Currently, it's kind of just like the next ban list will be whenever. There's no set time or date anymore.
Okay.
So it's just when they feel obligated to release a ban list.
Right. Okay.
And not really on a timer.
Right. Interesting.
I think it says no sooner than 3 months or something to that effect. So like it's saying the earliest that you'll get a ban list is like 3 months from now, but it could be 6 months, 9 months, however long.
All right.
Yeah, that's a very contentious topic in Yu-Gi-Oh currently, along with like time rules and stuff like that. But I'll ask you some of those questions in a little bit. When we talk about the roundtable topic of the week, which is just being competitive, what it takes to get to that competitive level. Obviously, you've played at Grandmasters, which is the highest level of Hearthstone. You've played in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship, had a top 8 appearance at Nationals as a 13-year-old, had a win when you came back to the game. So really just like you understand, like you even said earlier, you're a ladder grinder naturally. So you know what it takes to grind through a game, to learn the ins and outs of a game, and to make decisions based on what you've learned. So I just want to know from your perspective what it takes to be competitive at the top levels over one game, let alone multiple. What is your take on how you got there?
Right. I think honestly, okay, this one it might be a bit controversial, but I'm just gonna put it out there and say like when you're at the top of the game, when you are doing really well at a game, and like everyone around you, your competitors, your peers are all really very good, right? It's less about knowing how to play the card game itself, because everybody at your level knows how to play the card game, right? So it's more about finding that edge that you have over other people. It's like that niche, that thing that you do that's better. Like in Grandmasters, some people, I'm just going to use Hearthstone as an example. Like in Grandmasters, some people are better deck builders. They're really good at building counter lineups. Some people are just really good at playing the best decks. They're not very creative, but when you give them a deck, they can break it down so fast, and they can like make the best plays every single time. So like at the highest level, it's always about finding your niche, right? You got to know what you're good at naturally, and like push towards that. Like not everybody can do everything, like, okay, I'm gonna give a player example from Hearthstone, like Blyze, X-Blyzes. Like, and I think you guys should know X-Blyze. He is one of those players that he's a really good player because people always say he plays very fast, and like no idea how he plays fast and everything like that. But the thing is, his talent is in playing fast. Like he spots the lines really quickly. Yeah. And it's not that I can't spot the line. I can probably spot the line, but I would spot it while the rope starts burning. He spots it within the first 10 seconds, you know. So it's just a natural talent thing that some people just have. So you gotta know what is your thing, you know. Like for me, it's more about the fact that I know how to make plays that make people very uncomfortable in a game. Like I'm gonna use examples again. Like for Hearthstone, there used to be this card called Jandis Baroff, the one that spawns two things, illusions
Yeah.
alongside it. Yeah, I always do this thing, and you can even look it up on YouTube. There's a nice video about it. I always do this thing whereby I pick the illusion as the one that is stronger. So people don't like naturally do that. Like they think surely in such a high stakes competition, no one's gonna put like the illusion on this like 5-5 over the 3-2 something like that. But I put the illusion on the 5-5, and then it has won me countless games. It's just this kind of things. Like you need to know what you're good at doing at the highest level. Like the highest level is not really about trying to play the Hearthstone game, playing the cards better than your opponent or whatever. It's really about knowing how to outsmart your opponent, what you do that can give you the edge over everyone else who knows exactly what they're doing as well. You know, you gotta find the niche. Like you can't expect people to not play well at the highest level. It's something that you cannot assume that people will do. Like you cannot assume that okay, they're gonna misplay. You gotta assume that like everyone knows what they're doing, and then how can you be better at them even though they all know what they're doing? Yeah, that's one thing that I usually do to stay on top of the game, on top of like everyone else. Obviously, sometimes I still fall short. Like I don't even if I can tell you all these kind of things, I'm still human, right? I still make mistakes. I still misplay.
Of course.
I mean, yeah, so even the best players make mistakes. I think at the end of the day, after everything I've said, long story short, right? When as a pro player, you need to understand when you cannot win and when you can win, how you can capitalize on it best. Like there are a lot of situations that are unwinnable in Hearthstone. We all know there's RNG involved and everything like that. So like you just need to know. Okay, this one is more towards like playing around stuff in the game. Like if you know that you cannot win if a certain situation happens, right? Just imagine it doesn't exist. Just play like it doesn't exist. Because if it happens, you are dead anyway. So you need to be able to take the risk at the right time. And also just at the end of the day, accept that card game revolves around drawing cards. There's variance. Even if you play well, you can get high roll. So like at the end of the day, being able to stay competitive is also being able to keep your calm at most times. Not letting yourself succumb to tilt and just like go into this rage fit and then not play properly for the rest of your games. It's a lot about mental resilience. And like everything I've said is really more than just playing your cards. It's a lot about how you keep yourself calm, how you outsmart your opponent. And none of this has really anything to do with just cards. It's about just being smart. Let's put it that way. Just be smart about things.
Being smart.
Oh my gosh.
So I think I can go really long about this, but I think we have more questions. So
no, I think that's fantastic. And honestly, I think that relates to a lot of things. You know, I do a lot of content creation, and I think there's also a lot of comparables there, right? You know, people are always looking to say, how can I grow my Twitch stream? How can I grow my channel? And it's finding the thing that makes you stand out, just like that, right?
Yeah.
Finding your strengths.
It's a niche.
Yeah. You know, finding what it is that you're doing in terms of even like self-improvement. Like there's a huge market for self-improvement, right? In terms of, you know, and that's one thing that they always talk about in a lot of self-improvement books, or if you watch videos, is like finding your strengths, learning what you're good at, and then being very like gracious with yourself, which I think is kind of what you're saying with like the mental side of things, right? Where it's gonna happen. You're gonna get high rolled at some point, or you're gonna, you know, you're gonna take in odds. I had a couple of Marvel Snap games like that just today where I was like, okay, I'm playing some discard stuff. Literally 3 cards in my hand. 2 of them have discard effects. And twice I hit the third card that wasn't the discard effect. It's like, I lost that 33%. But you know, in the long term, yeah, you got to think about the things that are going to, you know, like, hey, was that the right choice in the long term? Though you're playing those odds, and you know, I think that's something that people need to use for improvement as well. So I think hearing that, like that still applies for pro players is something that is actually just awesome to hear, because it's like, okay, if you're already doing that and that's how you're improving in card games in general, like you're on the right track if that's the direction that you want to go.
Yeah, I want to add like 2 more things if that's fine. Yeah, so on building on your point about the percentage odds thing, it's actually even more relevant in the top of the field, like as a pro player, because when as a pro player you play under high stakes competition, there's like a lot of pressure, stress, and stuff like that. That's one thing you gotta manage, but it's because of this stress and high pressure that it will make you make some irrational decisions sometimes. Like in your ladder games when you're chilling in bed playing on your phone, you're always gonna take this risky play because you know that you gotta do it to win. But like if there's like $10,000, $20,000 on the line, and then you're afraid that if you make this play, it will backfire. But if you know at the bottom of your heart it is the correct play, right? Like let's use the Marvel Snap thing as an example. Like there's this location in the game that explodes your minion 25% of the time, right? You know that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
But sometimes
Danger
the
room.
strictly correct play is to just play it into the 75% chance. Because at the end of the day, 75 is more than 25. So if you remove emotion from that setting, right, you are always gonna win 3 out of 4 times, you know? So
Yeah.
it's just whether you have the leap of faith, the willingness to take the leap of faith. And I think at the highest level, it's not so much about that you don't know that you have to. It's just that whether you realize that you have to and not be afraid to do it. Yeah.
I played into that location 4 times and died 4 times. So and I'll still keep playing into it. Like,
You still have to do it because it's just
you just still
Yeah.
do it.
25 is strictly more than 25, right? It's numbers. You can't change it. Yeah. So yeah. That's all I gotta
I
say.
have a question about in terms of like your mental game.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed, like I said, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I've played a lot of games. So any of our listeners that would know knows that I've played pretty much every competitive game that there is to
Yeah.
play and had some level of success in them. But one of the things that I noticed, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh, because I played it for so long, is that I have to play differently when I'm playing at a casual level or at a like regional level or at like a national level. Like the higher the level of competition that I'm playing against has to change the ways that I play. I know that like if I'm playing at like my locals or like at a regional or something where it's just players from the area, and I sit down against someone who may not be as experienced at the game, they may not bluff, traps, or they might not set back row to bluff. They might only set things that are actually going to activate. Whereas if I play at the highest level, somebody will set a card that they can't even activate on my turn, or
Always
set like
get
a normal
pro
spell
stormed.
card. Yeah, I
Storm
set
the
heavy
aggro.
storm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally different levels of play. Do you feel like that translates to Hearthstone, or do you feel like that's totally different in that like if you're playing Hearthstone, you just have to play to your own percentage points most of the time?
I think for Hearthstone, okay, sadly, there's a lot less of that in Hearthstone, right? There's a lot less bluffing. Everything's a little bit more face up. But I think the biggest difference between lower level competition, I mean lower level Hearthstone play and like the highest level of Hearthstone play, to me, I realized the biggest difference is that okay, so I always have this I always use this thing to describe Hearthstone games on my stream, but like a good Hearthstone player wins like 65% of the time. Like even if you're the best player in the world, right, your win rate is probably like only 65%, which is insane compared to everyone else. 65% amongst the top players in the world is crazy, right? It's because the RNG in Hearthstone is huge. But the thing is, the best players always know how to win. So what I'm trying to say is that if a good player high rolls and a not so good player high rolls, the good player who high rolls is almost unbeatable because they know exactly how to capitalize
Correct.
on a good hand. But a not so good player, you can capitalize on them being not so good and still come back even if your hand is a bit more lackluster. So this is the biggest difference I see when it comes to like very good Hearthstone players and the average Hearthstone player. It's like if an average Hearthstone player high rolls me, I sort of know there is a window where I may be able to capitalize. But if it's a very good Hearthstone player that high rolls me, they will take this lead and snowball me until I die in the next few turns. It's like okay, I'm gonna use the Bunny Hopper example. Bunny Hopper is a very good Hearthstone player. Like he's like OG. He's really good at the game. And recently he's been running good as well, right? He's not gonna deny that he's been running good. He's gonna admit it. But he's also a very good Hearthstone player. So if a really good player runs good, you better hope you are rolling good as well. If not, you can't beat them, man. You really just can't beat them. Yeah. So I think Hearthstone is about like I'm not saying that like there's a lot of people out there that are undiscovered or whatever, but I think a lot of the undiscovered talent in Hearthstone is just that they haven't won at the right time yet. Like if they win at the right, if things go well and you know how to capitalize on it, that's how good players are found, how good players are born. So
That's
let's
what
hope
that was Habu Gabu. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
to me,
Exactly.
that's dangerous in other games for a different reason. Because like I don't know how to say it without getting like canceled, but some players create their own RNG in tabletop games. I'll just say some people cheat, and there's plenty of well-known cheaters in every card game that you'll encounter. The thing that was so scary when I first got into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh and like started getting into competitive events was I would see a really good player cheat?
Huh?
And then in my head, the way that I think, I'm going, how do you beat someone who's manipulating the game and also is very good at the game? So like
Yeah.
if if I take 10 players, 10 average players and set them across from me, they could build the hand that they wanted, the perfect hand.
Hmm.
And I think I could win 6 out of 10 games
Right.
just because they won't play that hand perfectly. But if you take
Hmm.
a very, very good player, like you said with the Bonnie Harper example, and just like build them an ideal hand, there's just
Hmm.
no way
Yeah.
that you lose. So I don't know what the scene was where you played. I didn't see a lot of cheaters until I started playing competitively. Is that something that you saw as you played through competitive Yu-Gi-Oh?
Right. In physical card games, there is like okay, because I've experienced my fair share of like people cheating against me as well. I'll admit that I've never done it. I really have never done it before. Okay, thank God. Okay, but the thing is like cheating in physical card games is so easy. Like
Mhm.
we've had it caught on video before. Like I mean, I'm thinking of like those Asian tournaments that I've played before. We've had it caught on video. People have done it literally sitting across the table from me and thought that I wouldn't see it. People have like
Mhm.
the most epic one was someone cheated against me in my face telling me he's gonna try and cheat and hopefully the judge lets him pass. Like he in my face tells me that he's gonna cheat. It's crazy
Wow.
because the thing about cheating at the highest level is that even why top players cheat in physical card games, right? It's not that they don't know it's cheating or they don't think they'll get caught. It's because when they are of a certain status, certain level already, right? They cannot. It's an ego thing, They cannot see
Yeah,
themselves
it's
losing.
ego.
So especially when they play against a player that's maybe not so good, doesn't really know the rules or whatever, and somehow the player high rolls them, they will find some sort of way. I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying that there'll be some sort of way that they'll try and go about trying to like bend the rules, or like if they know
Mhm.
the judges in the area very well, they're trying to like talk to them and say that
Yeah.
this person is like wasting time, or like his cards are marked. Oh, that one happened to me, by the way. Someone told me that my cards was marked. Then I was like, wait, you're only saying this because I'm about to win next turn. So
Yeah.
we had a big argument about it, and yeah, thankfully I got a better ruling. So there's a lot of ways to cheat in physical card games. We wouldn't go into it specifically, but like at least for Hearthstone, like I don't think there is a way to cheat in the game right now. Like I don't think so. Not that I know of, but yeah.
If you let some of those random ladder ads tell it, then
Uh,
I'm definitely a cheater and a hacker, and feel free
right,
to high
right,
roll
right,
there.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that
But
that is one thing that kind of scares me about trying to go back and like, why I'm like, oh, okay, I've gotten into Flesh and Blood and like I want to go try those tournaments. And that like thought that there is that possibility is kind of terrifying because I haven't actually played physical card games in the last like 8 to 10 years, pretty much basically since like Hearthstone came out, right? And then it's like, why would I go play physical cards when I could just do this digitally? And now there's more and more coming out. And that definitely is something that I've kind of had like a little bit of a fear of. It's like, oh God, do I really want to go and do card games physically and potentially deal with that? But also in the long term, I think, my kind of thinking on that is like, yeah, it is kind of a small percentage of players that do that still. So like, am I going to deny myself that entire experience of going and playing card games and and trying to compete with that? Am I just going to say, oh no, I'm too afraid of potential cheaters that I'm just not going to do that at all? No, like I'm still going to try it. And if it happens, then I will address it at that point. But,
Yeah.
that's definitely something that
yeah,
I've thought about.
it's gonna happen anywhere that there's room for cheating. So
Yeah.
the digital card game sphere kind of takes out the room for it because it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, any physical card game, somebody's gonna try to bend the rules, or somebody.
Yeah.
It could even be innocent, where somebody just doesn't know the rules. I mean, it's a brand new game
Yeah.
for you, so trying to know. I mean, if I tried to explain the damage step in Yu-Gi-Oh to you right now, having never played before, there's no way. It would take me months. It would take me months to explain how
Yeah,
it
but I
works.
think I think when it comes to the whole cheating thing, I'm not saying it's impossible in digital card games, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, when there are rules involved, right, that means there are people that could bend the rules. It's just that simple. So like, I mean, it's possible anyway. It's just whether how easy it is and whether um the people that are enforcing the rules are doing anything about it as well. So that's really you can't really stop people from doing it. People do it all the time. It's just how easy it is to happen and whether people are doing anything about it. So yeah.
Yeah. So for you, what was it like going from an extremely high level of competition and one card game to like
Mhm.
that same level of competition in another card game, did you feel like you had to like regrind? So like obviously you went from Yu-Gi-Oh and then you took a hiatus, if I'm not mistaken, after
Yep,
Yu-Gi-Oh
I did.
to serve, and then after that you ended up in Hearthstone.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you had to regrind in order to get to that level of competition, or do you feel like since you had been competitive, because like one thing I say is that Yu-Gi-Oh players or Magic players, tabletop players have an advantage in digital card game tournaments because like we've played really long tournaments before in person
Mhm, mhm.
where you have to like have a high mental capacity for 9, 10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then so like moving to like competitive digital card game, was that like a difficult jump, or do you feel like it was easy because of what you had already had to like mentally endure just to be competitive at a different card game?
Yeah, I want to agree on one thing first, which is I think card game skills in general are quite transferable. You know, like card gaming skills. Like give some examples like the whole don't draw last kind of thing. Like you want to see all your options before you make your plays.
Mhm.
Like I mean in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's the one attack with your smallest minion first, because there's a gauze. If you guys know what gauze is, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, so there are certain things that you will always translate over to another card game because it's about the same, you know, and like the whole thing I understood about there's variance involved. If you draw a card off the top of your deck and like you high roll your opponent or your opponent high roll you, it's just natural that these kind of understandings translate over. Like you don't forget that. Like the thing is, I think as much as sometimes I get annoyed when I get high rolled in Hearthstone as well, I know that it is bound to happen eventually. Yeah, things like
Mhm.
this translate over. So I think this part of the card gaming stuff I knew very well when I got into Hearthstone. But I think one thing I realized, it's a bit sad, but I couldn't translate a lot. Like I think I mentioned earlier in the podcast as well. I couldn't translate over a lot of like my human reading skills to Hearthstone. Like
Mhm.
I mean, like I did mention that like one of the things that I was sort of known for previously was faking the Jandis, right? Like it's just little things like this that I tend to do very naturally, because when you play physical card games, any form of like misdirection you can do is very important. From like if
Yeah.
you can like yeah. So in Hearthstone, I kind of found that naturally as well. But there's very little you can do in Hearthstone. So I do wish that, like, I mean, if I was given a choice, I wish that like digital card games had a bit more human interactivity to it. But because there isn't, I feel like in competitive Hearthstone, my age is a lot less than in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. But it's not gonna stop me from playing the game, right? I mean, like I chose to play Hearthstone, so just gotta accept it and then figure out what else I can do. So I think oh, one thing that I forgot to bring it up just now, but I think it's relevant now as well. But one thing that I think is the biggest step to improving as a pro player, like a lot of pro players, of course I'm not gonna name names, but a lot of pro players do not see this as well, is that even as a pro player, even at the highest level of competition, you must be able to admit that you can be wrong. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you might be right 9 out of 10 times, but this random guy in your Twitch chat or in your community will say something that you probably don't know. And it is only possible to improve if you accept that you don't know that fact and
Yep.
just move on from there. You know, like on my Twitch channel, half the time I'm okay, not half the time, that's a bit too much, but a third of the time I'm missing lethal. I don't see an interaction that is kind of obvious to some people. But the thing is, if no one is gonna tell me this and I'm not gonna accept it, I still wouldn't know the interaction when it comes to the actual competitive play, right? So
Mhm.
it's important to accept that you can be wrong. Just say, oh right, actually I didn't know this, you guys are right, that kind of thing. And then go on from there. I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of pro players cannot see, because we know that we are good, right? There's no doubt we are good at the game. But can
Mhm.
we be better? Yes, everyone can always be better. It's just that if you are listening to advice from someone that's less popular, less pro, doesn't mean it's wrong advice. It's advice that you might not know and they somehow know. Just accept it and then move on from
Yeah.
there. Yeah, just accept it.
So I'm
Yeah.
not like I completely agree with that because I mean I'm obviously haven't been a GM in Hearthstone. I haven't
Yeah.
qualified for a Masters tour. The only thing that I ever really played in Hearthstone was a Winter Championship back
Mhm.
when those were a thing. And one of the things that I do personally is I study how the game works. So like I'm not a developer or anything, but I want to know, you know, if I play a battle cry into a, a triggered effect, like
Mhm.
what order did this work, or what order did death rattles resolve in,
Yep.
or if two on summon monsters have an effect. So like stuff like that, or like end of turn. So like studying the game and knowing how the game works is something that's I think is missed a lot of the times from a high
Yeah.
level community. I see it a lot where somebody just doesn't know. Like I'll see somebody rope because I can visibly see on their face where they're like, I don't know how this interaction works. I know the line, but I don't know how it works.
Mhm.
And so I think that's super important too, like studying the game, studying the mechanics. I judged Yu-Gi-Oh for years just so I could know
Mhm.
how the game worked at a mechanical level, so that I could. I mean, the way that the game is structured now, where I watched YCS Pasadena, a lot of it, and there were chain link nines, so like a
Oh,
9-step chain link. And like, if you don't
correct.
know how to structure that, if you don't know how to work that out, and you don't know how to put that in your favor, especially if you're like the turn player, then you can lose games over stuff like that. So I think
Yeah.
the mechanics of a game is super important, and I think that translates to whether it's because the mechanics of the game has always been something that I like and I'm interested in. So
Same.
I think that translates to digital and physical, and not being afraid to like experiment and do things to figure out like how does this knife juggler interaction work
Yeah.
or whatever the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also another thing that I think is very translatable.
Yeah, the closest thing we had to chain links in Hearthstone, I think, is which Sylvanas dies first and which one steals the other one or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw that interaction first, I was like, oh my god, this is chain links. But that's it. That's it for Hearthstone mainly. But yeah,
Do you
yeah,
think
that's all.
it's more difficult? So like I know that we were talking about the ban list thing and how the ban list is different in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
And then Hearthstone obviously is structured to where like every so often there's gonna be sets released, and then in between those releases there's gonna be balance changes.
Mhm.
Do you feel like it's easier for you when things change often like they do in card games, or like when things change not so often, like MOBAs or like battlegrounds didn't change very much, or shooters where if you're good at aiming, you're good at aiming.
I think personally, what I like is if a meta stays the same for a long period of time. Because I'm someone that gets better at the game when I'm not someone that picks up a deck and I'm just a genius. I know how everything works. I'm not that kind of player. I'm the kind of player that I would say I learn more of the intricacies of something the more time I spend on it. So if a meta stays the same for a longer period of time, I am better near the end of it. I have to admit, I'm not like the craziest best deck builder ever, but like I'm usually the guy that I'm the dirty net decker that takes your best decks and then changes two cards and makes it into my deck and makes it better. Yeah, I have to admit, like I'm not the craziest deck builder ever, but I learn.
Filthy.
Yeah, I mean, I pick up because people used to say net decking is cheating or net decking is like not smart or whatever. But I'll just admit that I can't make decks as well as some other people. I just take their decks and then make it a bit better, you know. So if a meta goes on for a longer period of time, I will have more time to experience and change that one or two cards and then experience like the 1,000 scenarios I can experience with like Miracle Priest, Rally Priest, D6 Warlock, like that kind of thing. I get time to
Mhm.
experience it. So I do wish that like metas are a bit longer, but of course that also means that people get bored longer, like faster. Like the
Yeah.
non-competitive crowd definitely wants more change, more things to spice up the game and everything. But I think for me personally, as a pro player, I would like for there to be longer periods of like the same thing. But I mean, not everyone shares this opinion because things can get boring, right? When things get boring, people lose interest. So I think from a Blizzard perspective, I think what they are doing right now is cool. Like they release expansions very often, every few months to spice things up. I mean, I'm fine with things spicing up. It's just that when you have to relearn something for a competitive purpose, then more time is involved in relearning, right? So, I guess this time that I have to spend learning things again, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I have to spend the time learning new things.
Mhm.
So, yeah, basically that's it. I'm not trying to say that I don't like change. I love change. It's just that if it's a little bit slower, I will probably do a bit
Then
better.
you like
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I am
Yeah.
the total opposite. I like the beginning
yeah.
of a meta because I feel
Right.
like I can get an edge over people because I understand things really, really quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
I also get bored really, really quickly. So it's like
Right.
when I had my success in Yu-Gi-Oh! It was like because it was the fastest progression. It was one of the fastest progressing times in the game's history. It was like, all right, here's this elemental dragon deck that you guys get for like one event. And then it
Uh,
was really, really broken. And it was like I learned it really, really quickly and was really good at it. And then I
mm-hmm.
did well at nationals. And I could have went to worlds too, man, if it wasn't for Solemn Judgment. I'm gonna keep saying
Oh
that.
my
I
god,
hate I hate that card.
I hate that card as well.
Um that was the only card that could stop me from having lethal in my last match tickets was.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah, I hated it
so
for a
the,
different reason, but anyway, yeah.
wait. Why do you hate? No, I'm
Okay,
here for the Solemn Judgment. I hate that card.
okay. You guys want to know? Okay, so I've been people that know me the longest time. This is not known online or anything, but it's known in my local scene. I'm that one person that will not be willing to pay life points for anything. Like I don't play solemn. I don't like solemn judgment. I don't like solemn warning. So basically, for those that don't know, these cards require you to pay like X amount of life to do certain things, like to negate something. But I always believed, I wouldn't say I always believed, maybe because I was playing in the meta of like Insectors, whereby, okay, this is gonna get a bit technical, but one card gets you like a +3/+4 advantage, right? And there's like multiple ways to revive said one card. So to me, it's like, why do I want to pay life to get rid of a card that has like 3 ways of returning to the game? Why not I just play the cards that bring the card back to the game and let you pay the life so that you can waste your life and then I bring my card back and destroy you. Like this was my theory, and then no one really agreed with it. But I was the one winning everything, so too bad for you guys. So yeah, like they were paying half their life for Solemn Judgment, and I flipped Call of the Haunted. I'm like, hi, what's up? And they're like,
you lose.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's why I didn't like the pay life points cards, because I felt like I could play around that. And the thing is, everyone was net decking Japanese players who were playing like triple copy of Solemn Warning or whatever. And I was like, okay, you guys gonna play this? I'm just gonna bring 3 Call of the Haunted to counteract your 3 Solemn Warnings, and then life is easy. So like, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Call on that safe zone.
Yeah.
So like that's what I like. That's just me personally. I like a new meta. I like when everyone hasn't had the opportunity to discover everything, because I feel like it puts me a step ahead. So like when games rapidly progress and like change a lot, I feel like I do better. But when like the meta stays the same for a long time, I feel like I get worse because I've like lost interest. I'm bored with this deck. It's all the same stuff. And there's like certain decks I want to play. So like Barons, I remember in Barons meta when the Rogue deck came out, it was like the best deck in the world to me. It was the most fun deck I ever had. And
The Field Contact one?
Yeah.
Ah.
I just played the crap out of that deck. And the fact that it was good for long enough meant that I got to be good for a while in Hearthstone. Like that, when Evenlock was good and when that deck was good, it was the only 2 times I got to be good in Hearthstone. But yeah, I like the new metas where I can like just grab onto whatever is new and like play it, and it's the best thing. And I learned it before everybody else. Dawn, are you like that, or do you like an older? Are you like an older?
Oh
meta?
no, I'm the way Lamby described it. That is totally me. I am that. I'm like, maybe the first like 2 days of an expansion, I'm like, I'm just gonna throw cards into a deck and like have fun. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm tired of losing. Like, just give me the deck that I need to play and learn to like be good. You know, and
because
that's how I am.
Okay, maybe it's because I come from Yu-Gi-Oh, and the card pool is massive there. Whereas like Hearthstone, there's only so many cards you can play, right? That especially for any given class. So to me, it always feels like there's a better deck. It just hasn't been built yet. Like there's a better deck. It just hasn't been seen, or a better tech card or whatever. So I'm always looking for that, and always trying to like optimize.
Yeah.
I mean, that,
I think, like, I don't know. I think for me, I really like when it gets to a point of a meta where I can start looking that like 2, 3, 4 turns ahead, where I can go, okay, on turn 2, they want to do this. On turn 3, they want to do that. On turn 4, they want to do this. So if I can set up my turns, like, I think the longer the meta goes and I get more comfortable that way, I can do that. But when it's totally unexpected and people are just playing random stuff, I'm like, I don't know what is happening, and I struggle.
Check this out,
though. No. Okay.
Stay with me. Stay with me here. Listen.
All right.
Imagine, right? If you like, I know what I want to do on turn 1. I know what I want to do on turn 3. I know what I want to do on turn 5. And your opponent has no idea. Imagine that though. Like they don't know.
Yeah, I think I know what. Yeah, I know what Itachi is trying to say. It's like if both of you like are playing in something new, but you figure it out faster than your opponent, right? So that's the edge, right? Like you know earlier than your opponent what you're supposed to be doing, because like if you're really like intuitive and you figure out the meta earlier and everything. So I kind of get that as well. Like personally for me, I'm a bit of both of you guys, because I do better as the meta goes along, because like I know which good decks I need to invest my time in to figure out. And then at the end of the day, I think I'll come up with my own conclusions of how I want this game, this deck, or X amount of cards to be in my deck. Like maybe I don't like the 29th or 30th card in the deck, then I change that kind of thing. But like I think I work best when there's a skeleton and I improve on that skeleton. Yeah, so it's a little bit of both of you guys technically. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Yu-Gi-Oh has made deck building a lot easier than before though, where it was like Teledad was a hard deck to build because all the cards are from different archetypes. But like Yu-Gi-Oh now, it's like they release archetypes and the archetypes are really good. So you can just take all the 15 or 30 best cards in an archetype and throw them in it. Like literally, if you look at the past YCS Pasadena, there were 26 Shizu Teal decks in the top 32. If they all shared 20 to 25 cards. They all had the same 25 cards.
I think in most card game, okay, I don't know about most card games, but like in Yu-Gi-Oh and Hearthstone now, like the people that create the cards actually want you to play in a certain genre that they're creating cards so that you can build it a certain way as well. Like I remember for Yu-Gi-Oh last time way back, there were certain decks like top 1 meta decks that never even was supposed to be like a combination. Like I don't know whether you remembered Debris Dragon plus Dandelion. I don't think that was meant to happen.
No,
Like
I
that
don't
was
think so.
definitely not meant to happen. But some genius figured it out and the whole world was playing it. So I think as things moved along, I realized that like a lot of card game, like a Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone, they started to structure your archetypes a little bit more. Like you are supposed to build within this archetype. Like as you can see, look at Death Knights. Like right now, Death Knights that just come out, it's like super structured to play in your like your runes and your whatever. So I think I'm not trying to say that this is bad for deck building, but I think the people that release these cards would prefer that your deck building is structured in a way that they intend to, and not like make some broken combo that is not meant to exist. Then they have to like patch you or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of the rune things, I was actually about to ask about that. Do
Me
you think
too.
that is like good for balance, or do you think that like, okay, I think it's very clear that it's good for balance because like there are certain interactions that they can just prevent. I like broken things happening. I don't.
Oh, same.
I know that everybody doesn't, but I like really,
yeah.
really broken stuff happening. Like I like Patron. I thought Patron was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have nerfed Warsong Commander. I think it was totally fine. But
Mm.
do you think that it's good for deck building and balance, bad for deck
Okay.
building and balance, or somewhere in between?
Okay, so from a personal standpoint, I'm with you as well. Like, let's talk about the broken stuff first. Like, I love to do broken stuff in Hearthstone. Like, my favorite kind of decks in Hearthstone, like, I think I've mentioned this a lot of times on stream as well. Like, the things that I like to do in Hearthstone is I start my turn, I look at my hand, and I know there are 20 things I can do with this hand. Like, I can play multiple things, I can play it multiple ways. That's the kind of decks that I love in Hearthstone. So, I like to do broken things, yes, but I feel like when you are able to do broken things, it has to be broken things that can be answered. I think broken things are a bit not correct if they are too difficult to be answered. Like I love being able to do like crazy things in Hearthstone, but at the end of the day, there has to be decent amount of counterplay to it. If there's like no counterplay, then yeah, that's gonna be a problem for the game. So I think it's fine to have broken things in the game. It's exciting, but it cannot be like so one-sided to the point that there's no answer. Yeah, that's my stand on broken things. Yeah, basically that.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. So do you think the runes, like the way that they have
Oh,
Death
right.
Knights,
I
do you
forgot
think
about
it's
the
good
runes.
or no?
Honestly, when I saw the runes thing, I was like, holy crap, what is this? I was shocked. I was like, wait, why is there 3 gems on top of my deck tracker? Like on top of my deck list. Like, I was shocked that they introduced this system, to be honest, because I did not expect them to change a fundamental of deck building whereby they actually added like things like the infinity stones on top of your your deck. Yeah, I did not expect that. But like I said, I'm very welcome for change. I don't know how well it will be received. Currently it looks pretty good. Like people are like excited for change. But I don't know if it's a good change or a bad change. But I am excited to try it out and see what happens. I really did not expect them to do something to a basic structure of the Hearthstone UI. Like they added 3 things on the top of your deck building. I'm like, what? But
Yeah,
I
totally
think,
different.
yeah, I think it's a good change. Not a good change. I mean, I think it's a change that I would be very willing to figure out along with the rest of everyone else, and hopefully it's in the correct direction. Like then maybe in the future they'll do more of these kind of things for future classes or whatever again. So I'm down for it. I'm really down.
She
for
did that. She designed an entire rune system for every, like as if every class had
Wow.
runes. Like what would it look like? It's
Yeah.
very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think eventually if it all becomes that direction, I wouldn't mind. It's just that I'm surprised that wow, we actually are changing the base UI of Hearthstone. That's quite interesting.
That is interesting.
It is interesting. I don't think that they ever will actually implement it for all of the classes. I think they're doing it for Death Knights, fundamentally because of how like Death Knights already had this rune system in World of Warcraft, so they just kind of brought it over. It's a really interesting, like the thing that I did, we talked about it in last week's episode, but yeah, I did a whole video on it, but I created runes and I was like, okay, so instead of having 3 runes, like, I added 9 additional runes and split all the runes up across all the classes. I made some custom cards, all that. But one thing that it taught me was it was really interesting to look at the kind of design of the card and like the power levels of specific cards, was saying, hey, can you make something that's kind of like you guys are talking about, something that's really kind of almost a broken card, but if you give it 3 runes, you kind of limit how people play with it. So I'm interested to see if there is that like allowing them to actually create more powerful cards that players like you guys want to play with without allowing people to play with that like oddball card that they didn't expect to be played with that all of a sudden really actually breaks things, and then they have to go in and change it. So, you know, I'm excited for the rune system to look at it as like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I feel like coming from other card games, it feels more like they're kind of taking similar systems to what other card games have and putting it into Hearthstone, because honestly, like the way that Hearthstone's deck building has been for the last, 8.5 years, with just having class cards and neutral cards, and that's all you're allowed to put in your deck, is very different from a lot of the other card games that have, multi-colors and that kind of thing, where it's kind of interesting now to see this aspect being brought into Hearthstone. So I guess for me, in terms of that, like, that's really exciting, and it's kind of a way to play a different kind of card game, but inside of Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting, because like the preemptive nerfs on the Frost Revenant, the 4-mana minion, the gain 2/2. Interesting, because like when I first saw it, I was like, why would they nerf that card? And then I went and read the Death Knight spell, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I can see that they're taking a real like intentional approach to balancing the game and making sure that they're not creating ridiculous interactions that are like uninteractable. Because I think the card that stood out to me was like I think it's like Mana Biscuit without the 2-mana front load.
It's 0 mana one, right? The 0 mana one.
Yeah, that refreshes too. Like, imagine on turn 4 they just go like a 4-mana dude, and then like innervate, and then another 4-mana dude. Like, it feels like a lot, and now the 4-mana dude is like a 10/9 or something.
Yeah, I was talking about this on my stream just now, because my last hour of the stream I was looking through at the cards with my chat and everything. Then we came to conclusion about some broken stuff, but at the end of the day, our final conclusion was that there's nothing here that's broken enough to warrant like a nerf. Like they really very carefully like tailored everything. Like I just gave off the top of my head, I can't remember the card names yet, but like there's like this there's this like, I don't know, is it 1 or 2 blood gem thing that can combo really well with this like 1 unholy gem thing, but the other broken blood gem cards are 3 blood gems, so you can't put them all in the same deck with the unholy thing. Like, it looks very well tested. Like, I'm excited also because from the way I look at it is that they've introduced such a new system of like cards with the Death Knights. And apparently, from what I've seen so far, I hope I'm not wrong, from what I've seen so far, nothing seems overly broken, like there's like fun and good and powerful stuff to play, but nothing seems like unbeatable, which is good, right? Which is good. So I think they really did a good job from my perspective of this Death Knight system. Like, they really did test and like make sure everything is like good, broken, but not unbeatable. Yeah.
Oh, I'm actually curious now that we're talking about this, like before we wrap up our topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so you as a competitive player, high level competitive player, can you just talk about like how do you approach looking at these new cards like before we get to actually play with them? Because I think if you're anything like me and talk about how you play, you're very much a player. You're going to want to get in there and actually like play these cards and see how they, how they work in the interactions. But when you're just looking at a card like during reveal season, as a really high level competitive player, how do you approach looking at that and deciding if something is going to be really good? Is it going to be played? Like, how do you approach that?
Okay, so disclaimer, I've made my fair share of wrong calls before. I've called certain cards really bad and then they ended up being super insane. So I've made that mistake before. But generally, how I look at it is like with the current Death Knight stuff, I think my brain is just hotwired to look at 1+2, like, which is basically card A plus card B equals card C, or like something, like because of Yu-Gi-Oh! And whatever combos. Like, I notice like 2-card stuff like that work well together very quickly. Like, I don't really notice the crazy insane like D6 Warlock like mega plan or whatever. I don't really notice that kind of stuff. But when I look at like card reviews, I notice like which 2 cards work together really quickly. Like, I could point out the 2 blood gem, 1 unholy gem thing, for example, or like Triple Frost. I mean, this is off the top of my head. Triple Frost and Triple Unholy is like gonna be really strong, and Triple Bloods feels like there's no win condition in the deck, that kind of thing. Like, I spot this kind of stuff, And then I start to look at like, okay, which cards would pair well with the kind of things that I notice. Which cards would pair well with this like so-called strategy that appeared in my brain. And then sometimes I find it, sometimes I don't. And then obviously if I don't, I'm just gonna wait a few days before Twitter finds it for me, right? So like yeah, it's usually the case. Yeah. That's what I mean by okay, I don't really mean in the previous like part of the podcast, I don't mean that I don't know how to build decks. It's more like if I can't figure something out, right, I'm just gonna accept that like, I don't know this. I'm just gonna wait until you guys figure it out so I can make it better. You know, like I have no shame in saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fair.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess we are getting ready to wrap up. Man, it's been fun to pick your brain
Mhm.
and to just hear you talk
Yes.
about how you like perceptualize the game and like how you
Yep.
approach things. So a lot for me. I love it. I love to get into the minds of competitive players. So
Same.
awesome to have you. So we do have what is called lightning round.
All right.
It is just a series of questions. You can see them in the show notes if you want to pre-prep
Mhm.
yourself, but if not, just quick gut reaction like
All right.
what do you think as soon as
I'm not gonna look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay,
more
perfect.
exciting. Yeah.
So
I
I'll
only saw the
start.
first one. So yeah.
Okay, well, I'll give you
So-
the easy one first, and then
right.
Don will switch, and then at the end we'll have a question that you cannot see at all. So,
Okay.
number one is if you were a card from any of the games you've ever played, which one would you be?
For Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Magician, for Hearthstone, Leroy Jenkins.
Spicy. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what
Yeah.
is your favorite type or archetype of deck to play?
I love combo decks. For Hearthstone specifically, Rogue. For Yu-Gi-Oh, anything that allows me to like take a 2 or 3 minute turn and let my opponent just watch me do my stuff. Yeah.
What is one goal, LOL, that you have for yourself in the card game universe?
In the card game universe, I feel like I still want to go to Worlds in Hearthstone. And that's like one of the goals. But another goal is also I want to build my content brand. Like I'm streaming now. I'm trying to build a YouTube as well. Trying to build other social media platforms and everything. Because I think the longevity in a pro gaming career is the after competing part. Like you can compete for X amount of years, but what keeps you relevant and keeps you like sustainable in the industry is to do more than just compete. And that's the thing that I think a lot of pro players have to build, or maybe they don't realize it, maybe they do, but I feel like from a sustainability standpoint and from like a person that needs to put food on the table standpoint, I feel like after competing stage of your pro gaming career is what's the most important, because you need to leave your legacy, and in order to do that, you need to start building early as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And okay, do you prefer physical or digital cards?
Oh, I mean, obviously physical. Like if I could play Hearthstone lands every day, I'll play Hearthstone lands, because like the human aspect of the card game is one thing that I miss dearly ever since COVID and whatnot. So I hope lands come back. I really love physical card games. I really love the fact that I can look at my opponent in the eye and see the fear that I'm putting into him when I win, that kind of thing. No, just kidding. But like you get
Yes.
the point. Yeah, you get the point.
So a surprise question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna base it off what you just said. What is
Yep.
the review that you gave a card that you actually just bombed on? You got completely wrong, and then what is one that you got completely right?
Oh man, shoot. I can't remember exactly which one I got wrong, but I think I might have been a Trump here. Like I said that Corridor Creeper was bad. I think I did say it was bad. But
So many
in my
people
defense,
did.
I think I didn't read the card properly. I think I thought it was only on my side of the field that died. I think that was why I said it was bad.
Okay.
I touched my heart, like I know that card is good, so I don't know why I said it was bad. But yeah, it's probably because I read it wrong. A card that I got completely right. Man, it's always easier to think of the bad things in life, right? So I can't think
It
of one
is.
that,
Yes.
that I got completely right now. But I know I've gotten quite a few. I cannot remember right now. Let's just
I've been
leave it at
holding one.
Yeah.
I've been holding
Yeah.
one over my teammate's head for
Which one?
years.
Yes, you have.
Pinflinger.
Oh,
I got Pinflinger
yeah.
completely right.
Yeah, the
He
rest
got
of
it
us are
completely
like,
wrong.
Penflinger's not going to be that good. Itachi was like, yes, you watch. We're like, nah, I don't know.
wait, Penflinger started out being able to go face, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I knew it was good. That one I knew it was good. Yes.
Yeah.
Good go face.
So we are gonna go ahead and plug your Twitter and Twitch so that you can continue building the brand that will create the longevity after
That's
your pro
right.
gaming career is over.
Yes.
So you can find Lamby on twitter.com/lambyseries GG. And on Twitch, you can find him at twitch.tv/lambyseries TV. And he streams pretty regularly. I catch quite a few of them. And he's always streaming in pretty high legend. So, and maybe once Marvel Snap changes their UI, he'll be streaming there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I stream mostly on the NA time zone as well. For the most part, like gamers don't sleep, so I'm nocturnal where I am. So which is the awake time for you guys, so it's perfect. So yeah, if you guys want to catch my streams, just check out the links that they mentioned. And thank you guys for having me on this podcast. It was really fun. As much as Itachi said it as well, I really like talking about card theory, mindset, everything like that. I don't really get to talk about this much with people like nowadays. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Last time it was a lot easier, But for Hearthstone, I don't know why there's less of less people that I can talk to about this kind of stuff. So this was a really nice change, nice time on this show for me, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, that was I agree with you too. Like I love talking about like the mindset stuff and like digging into, like reasons why things are the way they are or why people do things a certain way. And yeah, that's, that I think that's something that we definitely wanted with this show is to dig more into that, not as much like technical play of card games, but dig into those kind of concepts, especially because like you mentioned, a lot of those skills and that same thing correlate to multiple card games. So absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us, and thank you everyone for tuning in this week. Now, if you or someone that you know would like to join us on the show, or, if you even want to just like tag us in some pro players or something that you would like to see on the show, please do so. You can reach out to us by emailing us at tccgroundtable@protonmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, TCCG Roundtable. Use that top pinned tweet to join into our Discord or in the link in our description or show notes. Jump in that Discord, chat with us, and check out the video version on my personal YouTube at youtube.com dragonrider TCCG. And then, of course, everywhere that you can find audio podcasts, and check out Itachi and I individually as well. But that is going to do it for this week. Thank you so much, and we will see you at the Roundtable.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever indeed.